Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. It's Friday morning, April 28th, 2023. Our agenda this morning, we'll start out with success stories. We'll hopefully have somebody to share some good news with us today. We'll then have everybody put their 30-second introductions into the chat window. We'll then hear from about workshop, job fairs, the practice interview team, the interview success workshop. We'll hear about the career tip of the week. And then we will have our main event right around the top of the hour. For those people on Zoom, please feel free to enter any questions you have, any comments you have into the chat window. For those watching on Facebook this morning, thank you for joining us. Please just enter your questions into the comment field. We're monitoring that feed. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. This group's been around since the late 1990s. There were several different leaders who were running it back then. I took over when the prior person landed a job, and so I've been doing that since 2007. In 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org. I saw there was a need to have a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, one place where you could find everything. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, a website to help those unemployed around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. You can get it on Amazon for $15, or if you see me in person, I'll sell it to you for $10. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, DallasPitCrew.com for more information, and you'll hear more about that in just a couple moments. Well, we like to start the meeting off with good news, success stories. Do we have any landings out there? Anybody have any good news to share? Please unmute your mic and let us know.
I've got one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
So my former employer reached out to me, and they said they needed to have a short-term need for a software tester. So on Monday, I'll be starting a 3-month assignment with my former employer.
Ah, great. That's why you never burn bridges.
Absolutely.
So just out of the blue, he called. I mean, you didn't apply for anything. He just out of the blue called you up.
No, he saw that he looked at my LinkedIn profile, saw that I was available, and said that we got a need.
Do you have the open to work banner on your LinkedIn profile?
Currently, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So he knew by looking at it, and I'm sure he probably doesn't pay for the recruiter's package, so he was able to see that you were looking. Well, congratulations. Will you put the details as far as what you'll be doing in the chat window, and that way I'll update the roster, and then
sure.
Hopefully it turns into something longer than 3 months. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good news. Anybody else?
I don't have a success story, but I have a question. I'm inside the church, and I'm not sure where it is.
Well, we're not meeting in the church today because they told me the church was closed. So There's actually 2 of you there, as far as I can tell right now. I was ready to go to the church, but they told me the building was closed. There'd be no staff there today. So
I'm in N156.
N156. Kathy, where are you at?
I'm in 156. That's me.
Oh, Gabrielle, where are you at?
I'm going downstairs. I was upstairs, so I'm going to go to 156.
Okay. All right. Well, at least there'd be 2 of you there. I didn't know. Yeah, I was told earlier in the week there'd be nobody there to let us in. So that's why we're not there. All right. Well, sorry about that. I did send a note off to everybody trying to figure out what's going on. All right. Any other success stories? All right. What we'd love for everybody to do now is please enter your 30-second introductions. We want a name, comma, phone number, comma, your email address, comma, position you're looking for, comma, a couple target companies, 2 or 3 target companies, and then let's see how we can help you. hit the return key, put all that information in one little box. I will put an email out this afternoon to everybody with all the details of what everybody put in the chat window. Look it over this afternoon, see who you can help, see how you can help somebody else. That would be really appreciated. So let me put 30 seconds on the clock for you to get started here. All right, yeah, plenty of time to keep doing it. I also use this to update the roster so that if I don't see you're there, I'm not going to know you're available. I won't be able to update the roster with that information to show you're here if you're using this for a Texas workforce or a workforce employment event. So if you can, please put your information into the chat window. That would be greatly appreciated. All right, two websites, totally free websites, Career DFW, careerusa.org. Total free websites to help you help anybody who's unemployed. If you know somebody who's unemployed, please let them know about the websites. They don't collect any personal information. There's no signups. There's no fees to use them. We're trying to put the information out there to help everybody in their job search. One of the things that you'll find on the Career DFW website is a series of calendars. And pink are job fairs, blue are networking meetings that are meeting in person, purple are the webinars, the gold are special events that are happening, free career events that are happening throughout the going on. So please consider, if you know somebody who's unemployed, let them know about the websites and check out the calendars. There's something going on almost every day of the week, morning, noon, and evening for you to, give you something to do. Get out of the house if you can. I'm sorry we're not meeting in person today, but like I said, I was told the church told me they were closed. There'd be nobody in the building today. All right, let's see here. The Dallas practice interview team. Let me talk about that for just a second. The practice interview team, your resume, your LinkedIn profile isn't going to get you a job. What it will get you is a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. The Dallas Pit Crew consists of a bunch of hiring managers who are here to give you a free practice interview. It is totally free. You don't have to pay anything for it. The motto is practice early, practice often. You can't just practice once. You need to practice 2 or 3 times because you'll get better and better the more you do it, the more natural it'll become. We tend to hear from a lot of the candidates who go through the practice interview team that when they actually had the interview, it was easy because we really prepared them and really got them ready. The nicest thing about this is you get feedback. When you go for a real interview, they don't tell you what you did right and what you did wrong and what they liked. Here, the interview lasts about 45 minutes, and then there's 15 to 30 minutes of feedback afterwards to go over your answers and to talk about what you did. So all you need to do is send a resume and a job description to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com, and you're able to, and you're scheduled 2 to 4 days out so they can schedule something. They're doing interviews Monday through Friday. For more information, you go to dallaspitcrew.com. Also, the Dallas Pit Crew is meeting in person on the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays of the month. So this coming next Wednesday, they'll be meeting in person at Christ United Methodist Church, 3101 Coit Road up in Plano. It's on the southwest corner of Parker and Coit. Kathy and Gabrielle are there right now. They're there early, ready for next Wednesday. We will be online only. So I know we already have one interview scheduled for next Wednesday. We can probably do a second one. So if you'd like to do an in-person interview, you're welcome. Or if you just want to come watch an in-person interview, watch somebody else go through it, come join us next Wednesday at 1 p.m. All right, Walt Glass, tell us about the Interview Success Workshop.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I, too, enjoy helping job seekers gain that confidence and skills for successful hiring interviews. And so what do I do that's different from the practice interview team? Well, first of all, I'm a panelist and heartily recommend that we take advantage of what the pit crew offers us. But as I was looking around after I retired to say, what can I do? And I visited a couple of groups and I saw what was going on with interviewing. I said, I used to do some interviewing stuff back in 2000 when I lost a job and I really screwed up an interview. So I founded and developed the Interview Success Workshop, and it's fundamentals of selling. Everyone agrees that we're selling ourselves in an interview. So what is it that we do to do that? I hear a lot of people responding. I don't hear a lot of people selling. So we certainly need to respond, but we need to also sell at the same time. So what do we sell? What are those elements? Well, companies are buying who we are, what we do, and how we can help them. There's always a purpose for every job. So what is your purpose? What can you do for a company? How do you help them? Where do you improve things? What is it that you can do to say, I'm worth what you're going to offer me in working for this salary? And so that's the I help side. But we also have to sell the I am side, our soft skills, our characteristics, our personality, the way we work, how we go about doing things, etc. So that's all in the I am and the I do part. And we want to combine who we are with what we do to show them how we can provide value. So use the 12 basic categories of questions. It's not a smooth interview at all because we're looking at structures, strategies, options, ways that we might answer a question because it depends on the question, who's asking, and where you are in the process. Therefore, to sign up and to get into the workshop, you have to be registered. That QR code on the screen starts an email to my Yahoo email address where you can say, I'm requesting, and I can respond to you and give you some optional dates for you to register and sign up. Now, the main thing about the workshop that's really different than the pit crew, while the pit crew is a mock interview, the workshop is not. It is a learning interview. It's an opportunity to come and say, let's figure out how to sell ourselves before we really start worrying about how we can do that more effectively with the real interviews. Therefore, come on down and register. It's not a hot seat. It's not something that you have to feel like you're going to have your life flashing in front of your eyes. It's 99.9999% free. It's not totally free because Jeff says, the pit crew's totally free. Well, I'm not quite. Actually, it's $100, but you can owe me for the rest of your life. So it doesn't matter. Anyway, come on down. We can have some learning without squirming. Is interviewing going round and round as the job search goes up and down? Well, let me get a bit terse. Sign up, rehearse. Every practice you get better, not worse.
Thank you very much, Walt. Great. Always great to have poems. All right, it's time to hear from about the career tip of the week. Every Saturday, there's every Saturday afternoon, a new career tip of the week pops up. In fact, I need to load those for next month. I haven't done that yet. So that's on my agenda this afternoon. Rosanna's with us this week, and she's going to share this week's tip. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. All right, this week's tip of the week is dated April the 23rd, and it's keeping your confidence up during a lengthy job search. So in summary, if you've lost your job, it can be harder to remember all your career successes and stay positive. But you can't replace your old job by staring at the computer 8 hours a day or praying for a recruiter to call you. The author presents 5 ways to overcome the cognitive dissonance of having to sell yourself and your abilities to a prospective employer when you've taken a big hit to your confidence. When Tanya was working as a high-level executive at a tech company, she was recognized repeatedly for her value as a subject matter expert. After she was laid off in December, she was confident her skills would make her marketable, and she'd land a new job within weeks. 3 months later, she's still looking for the next opportunity, and her confidence in her skills and capabilities plummets further in every rejection. As your job hunt wears on, it can be harder to remember all of your career successes and stay positive. Here are 5 ways to overcome the cognitive dissonance of having to sell yourself and your skills, to sell yourself and your abilities to a prospective employer when you've taken a hit to your confidence. So first, you want to write down 10 reasons why you're successful and read them every morning. Writing a list of accomplishments helps you to alter the negative thought patterns that can destroy your confidence. It's not enough just to write them down. It's about reading them every morning to condition your mind to think differently about yourself and your job search. Instead of focusing on the things that make you feel worse about your unemployment and the constant rejection, focus on the facts in front of you. What made you successful in your previous work environments? What made you the go-to colleague for colleagues that were when you had a hard problem to solve? What skills do you possess, and how do you use them to your advantage? For example, I can build trusting relationships quickly, which is proven in the workplace when people rely on me to problem solve sensitive issues. Or, I have been lauded for my performance every year, specifically for my ability to align stakeholders with different needs for their businesses. So having the truth in front of you about your skills and capabilities will help you negate any unhelpful self-talk, because it's hard to deny the truth. All right, so number 2, set daily and weekly goals. When you're working, you usually know what the goals are that you're trying to accomplish each day, week, or month. And when you aren't working, you have a high level goal of finding a new job. But as the days turn into weeks and then months, you may feel defeated because you haven't achieved your goal. Break that larger goal down into small pieces. Determine the specific period of time you will spend updating your resume, practicing interviewing, researching potential opportunities, and applying to jobs. And don't just look at your career. Consider home goals you can complete and feel accomplished. Whether it's painting a room or cleaning out cabinets or your kids' room, now's the time to pick one thing each day or week to conquer. Find a digital or paper planner that will inspire you to write down your daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly goals. And it should break down each week by what you'll accomplish each day. Setting goals for yourself every day will help you check the box on both your job search and perhaps that long list of home projects you've never had time to accomplish. And using a planner will provide visual evidence that you're getting something done every day. Ultimately, that will help you rebuild the confidence you keep going to until you achieve the end goal of a new job. So third, create a networking group. Convene a group of people in your field or a different field if you're looking to make a career pivot, to meet periodically and remind each other why you enjoyed working together and figure out how to help each other. Consider this is a mastermind group for brainstorming. You could talk about how you can transfer your skills and capabilities to a different field, or give each other resume or interview feedback. This group can also have the goal of bringing together job leads to each other, linking members to additional connections or resources, or holding members accountable to their goals. Every meeting can help you rebuild your confidence because people are trying to help you, and they wouldn't do that if they didn't believe in you. The fourth, demonstrate self-care. Job hunting can be exhausting, and every day you have to wake up and apply for more jobs and reach out to more contacts at companies with openings. As Ben Aldis reminds us during every Peloton stretch session, self-love is never, ever selfish. Self-care is done with the pure intention of giving yourself new mental, social, physical, and emotional resources to continue moving forward. Consider taking time to do something you're good at every day or week, such as playing golf or pickleball, hiking, biking, or simply reading a book. Adding low-pressure, achievable goals to those activities, for example, I will read 30 pages a day, or I will bike 10 miles this week, can help you feel accomplished. And fifth, volunteer. It's critical to always be thinking about how you can upskill over the course of your career. Volunteering is a fantastic way to keep your skills sharp and even develop new ones. Bringing your expertise as a volunteer will remind you that you have skills that can bring value to an organization to help accomplish its goals. Volunteering can also have major benefits to your psyche. Helping others make you feel grateful, and studies consistently show that those who are grateful are happier because they focus on what's good in their lives. You may also be able to practice the skills you used at your previous jobs and prove not only to yourself, but also to others that you have useful skills and capabilities. You can also teach others at the organization, which will help bring your confidence as a subject matter expert. You can't replace your old job by staring at the computer 8 hours a day or praying for a recruiter to call you. Give yourself permission to job hunt for a set period of time each day, and then empower yourself to close the computer and try one of those other ways to build your confidence. Confidence comes from feeling capable in your mind and body to accomplish anything you want to accomplish. Building your confidence when you're not working will allow you to believe in yourself holistically. So when you find your next opportunity, you won't rely on the job to confirm your value. As for Tanya, she accepted a job offer 6 months after searching and is confident in her capabilities, even if this new opportunity isn't the final destination. So for each of you, keep your confidence up during your job search because you will land. So enjoy the journey until you do. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Rosanna, thank you very, very much. All righty. Coming up in just a couple minutes, we're going to hear from Sarah Jacobs about recruiters lifting the curtain behind, looking behind the curtain a little bit. So we'll be talking with Sarah in just a moment. I just want to mention upcoming next Friday, open forum being the first Friday of the month. We'll talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about. We will be back in person next Friday. So we will be back in room N255 for those in the DFW area. We are going to be there. And then on the 12th, accomplishments, job search, advancement, and fair pay. And that's with Rick Gillis. He wrote a book about a year ago talking about these subjects, about comparing how people getting advanced with fair pay and combining lots of thumbs. It's a very, very interesting presentation. So join us in 2 weeks on May 12th. All right, well, our speaker today is Sarah Jacobs. She's a manager of business development at Thomas Everidge Group, which is a recruiting firm here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you are part of Frisco Connect, you see Sarah. She's all over the place helping people, and she'd love to connect with you and try to help you find a job. So Sarah, thank you for being with us, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Jeff, quick question. Are you going to do my slides or am I going to do them?
You get to do them unless you want
okay.
to do them.
Nope, I got it. I just wanted to be sure I was sharing my screen and doing all the right things. So 1 second, I'll get that pulled up. Hi, everybody. Let's just, no, there we go. Let's make sure we get this. Okay. We good, Jeff? Thumbs up?
We're
Are we
good.
good?
Thank you.
Okay. So hi, everybody. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Sarah Jacob. As Jeff said, I spend a lot of time on various Zooms and meetings trying to help find people jobs or help them network and get introductions that they need, etc. A little bit about my background, and then we'll kind of jump into the presentation. But I'm a recovering CPA is the way I like to call it. I started as an auditor and CPA at Arthur Andersen, if any of you remember that place. I was there for about 5 years, and then when Andersen went under, I made my way over to KPMG, another one of the big 4 accounting firms. Started doing what was supposed to be about a 12-month project and turned that into 15 or 16 years as a talent acquisition director there. I figured out pretty quickly that I like the people side of the business a little better than sort of the technical accounting side. But I speak accounting and finance, and spent a lot of years really enjoying that space. Traveled quite a bit over the last 7 or 8 years that I was there, and got to a place where I decided it was time to figure out what was life like after Big Four. I was fortunate enough to find Thomas Edwards Group. I went to lunch with our founder, and while I didn't know much about agency recruiting, I fully bought into what he was doing. He built a firm over the past 26 years where we help and we try to be genuine, and we build relationships, try to find people jobs, and try to find our clients quality talent to build up their teams. So happy to be here. I've been with the firm since 2019. And my colleague Tracy Harris is on as well. I think she's with you guys a lot of Friday mornings, but Tracy's on. So Tracy, if you have anything to add, feel free to comment at any point. But thanks for being on as well. And we're going to talk about recruiters. You guys are in a job search. It is a trying time. It's an emotional time. It's an empathetic time. But utilizing resources like Jeff has provided and like many of the other networking groups have provided is key. I love the comment about making sure that you're taking care of yourself also. So focusing in on self-care. But if you treat your job search like a really good, important part-time job, that's our best advice. So today we're going to talk about recruiters and how we can help you, and really sort of what we do and why we do it and how we get paid, quite honestly, because that's what's going to help you guys know how to utilize us best. So let's get started. All right. As a part of your search plan, you're going to do lots of different things. You're going to spend the majority of your time building and maintaining your network, building those relationships. Anyone you talk to is going to use that word over and over again, because you might get a job that you apply to online, whether it's through LinkedIn or through a company website. You might, but you might also utilize your network to get in and get that interview. So you want to reconnect with your key contacts. Who do you know? Who do you like? Who do you respect? Who's going to answer when you call them, and who knows, likes, and respects you? Because those are the people that you want to spend some time with. You want to establish new connections. So joining these types of organizations, joining these types of Zooms, taking advantage of Pit Crew, meeting people that want to help you. They're out there, right? So you want to establish new connections. You want to get yourself organized on LinkedIn. And I know Jeff has every Tuesday, there's updates on what to do for LinkedIn and how to utilize that wisely. So you want to make sure your profile's ready to go, and you want to make sure you're connecting and engaging with not only contacts, but also with companies that you're interested in on LinkedIn. You want to attend organization meetings. So things like this, where you get to meet people that are interested in helping you. But what we really want to talk about today is you want to meet with recruiters. And let's talk about kind of what the two main topics are. For purposes of today's chat, we're going to really focus on agency recruiters. This is separate from your corporate recruiters who work for full-time for their specific company. Okay. Tracy and I work for an agency, and usually there's two types of external recruiters. There's retained recruiters and there's contingent recruiters. Retained recruiters are paid upfront, meaning a company will say, I need to hire, for example, a CFO. They will reach out to a retained recruiting firm. They will pay about 1/3 of what they expect to be the total fee to the recruiter upfront. That recruiter is being paid to go source that perfect candidate from somewhere. And whether it's local or whether it's national, they're out on LinkedIn, they are utilizing their network, and they are finding, for example, maybe only the 1, 2, or 3 candidates that are going to perfectly fit for that role. And they're paid to go find that candidate. They primarily work on senior level positions. And I actually think this number is probably a little outdated. Most of the retained firm searches that I've seen are 225, 250 and above. Yes, they work on senior level positions, but they're actually usually starting off even a little bit higher than kind of what's in this slide in today's market. So retained recruiters are literally paid to go find the right candidate, okay? However, there's this whole other bucket called contingent recruiters, and that's what Tracy and I are. Tracy and I work to find our clients the best candidate that we have access to. So there's no fee paid. We do not make any money. Our firm does not make any money unless our recruiters find the perfect candidate and our clients make an offer and the candidate accepts the offer and the candidate starts at the firm. Then and only then do we make money. Okay. When it comes to recruiting agencies, there's a lot of different sizes and shapes. None are perfect and none are awful, but you need to figure out what might work best for you and how those resources are going to work the best for you in your job search. So one category of agencies for recruiting is volume. Large scale, they work, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of jobs all at the same time. They do quite a bit of cold calling. They're going to call up a candidate and just say, hey, I've got a job you might be good for. They're utilizing, sending their clients dozens and dozens and dozens of resumes for any one job, but they may or may not have actually talked to any of those candidates to see if those candidates are interested in those roles. We at Thomas Edwards Group operate a little differently. We operate as a relationship model. So we're a boutique size. We only have about 45 employees. And we really focus on warm introductions. So if Tracy or I send a candidate and their resume over to one of our clients for consideration, we have talked to that client. We know what they're looking for. We have talked to that candidate. We know what they're looking for. We have discussed both, the opportunity and the salary and everything that goes along with it to that candidate and made sure that they're interested in that role before we send their resume over to the client for consideration. Okay. So what does all this mean for you? It means that recruiters who work for contingent firms are serving their clients, they're serving their candidates, and it's a commission-based job. So the recruiters do not get paid a salary. The recruiters, like a corporate recruiter, recruiters get paid on commissions. So recruiters get paid when their candidates land on their clients or when their clients are hiring candidates from, that have been presented within the firm. So who is the client? Some agency recruiters will focus primarily just on the company and the client. Some recruiters will focus just as much attention and love and relationship building with the candidate and the client, trying to make that perfect match. So think about when you're working with agency recruiters, what is their goal? Their goal is to help you land a job, but their goal is also to find the right candidate for their client. And so they've got to find that match. This slide I think it tells a lot. So we get a job order. So what that means is someone like me or someone like Tracy has a relationship out in the marketplace, and XYZ client will call us and say, Sarah, I need a senior accountant, and can you help me find one, please? So that for us is called a job order. That means they have actively engaged us to go find candidates for them. We meet the client. So on that top left bucket, we meet the client and we go through an exhaustive list of questions and answers to be sure that we know exactly what they're looking for. What is their corporate culture? What kind of candidate is going to really succeed there? What does success look like in a candidate on their team? We talk about what is their environment? Are they hybrid? Are they back in the office? Are, things like that. We talk about flexibility. We go through to really, really get to know our clients and what they're looking for. At the same time, we're negotiating a fee agreement. So that's typically something that I do. And I'll talk to the client about why they should work with Thomas Edwards Group, why we think we're different than some of the other firms, and what does that fee structure look like, and we'll negotiate and get a contract in place. Then someone like Tracy will take all that information that she got from the client meeting and send it out to our team. So it's not just Tracy looking for candidates that would fit, it's everybody within our firm, because everybody has their own candidates, everybody knows their own candidates in their own database. And the goal is for us to all have a couple of names that come to mind that says, you know what, I've got a candidate that would be perfect for that. That's the right location for them. That's the right compensation level for them. That's their dream client that they would love to work at. And they will send those names to Tracy. We are also ongoing doing interviews all the time. We interview over 100 new candidates every week as a firm. So we're constantly meeting new people, constantly getting new candidates that are in a job search. Then we're working our search plan. So we think about, okay, who do we know? We go through our database. We say, if this client is specifically looking for XYZ skill set, who do we have in our database that has that skill set? And if they're currently employed, are they open to considering a new job, right? We're not going to pull them out of our current clients, but if they're somewhere else working and they say they're open to considering something new, we might go find them there. So we look at all of our database, we ask for referrals, we reach out to all of our contacts, for example, in that industry. If somebody's looking for somebody in the healthcare industry that has revenue management, then we'll reach out to who do we know in healthcare with revenue management experience, and we'll think about asking them, hey, who do you know that might be in a job search that would work well for this? Then we go through interviews. And so we coordinate those interviews with the client. We prep every single candidate before they go to one of our interviews. We debrief with every candidate after they go to the interview. We debrief with the client to say, how did the interview go? So this is literally what Tracy and I do all week long. And Tracy, gosh, probably is working, 14, 18, 20 jobs right now, all at the exact same time. So she's keeping all these different balls in the air, trying to find candidates that fit for each of those jobs and making sure that each of those clients is caught up on where we are in the process, what's the next thing, etc. All of that is done behind the scenes and before we actually get to the green section, which is a candidate gets an offer. We have to get the candidate to accept an offer, which in today's market is sometimes challenging because a lot of candidates have multiple offers. And so working with the candidate to think through what is the best opportunity for you at this time and helping to get that information back to our clients so that they feel like we've done our best to advocate for the candidate and the client at the same time. Then we celebrate with the client. We celebrate with the candidate. We take everybody to lunch. We get excited about it. And then, and only then, when the candidate actually shows up on their first day, which in this market has not happened 100% of the time. We actually have candidates who do not show up on day one, but assuming they do, that is when we send our clients our invoice, and that's when we get paid. So what does this mean? It basically means that 95% of what we are doing for our jobs is done for free. That's why we're called a contingent firm, and that's how contingent firms work. And I am not monitoring the chat for questions. So if anybody has a question, you can pop up, or we can wait till the end. But Jeff, if you see anything, interrupt me, or I'll just keep going. We can get to them at the end. Either way.
Nothing's popped in yet.
Okay. So I hope many of you have not had to deal with recruiters who exhibit poor professional behavior. And I hope that we don't have to deal with candidates who exhibit poor professional behavior, but it happens. Sometimes recruiters get busy and they will ghost you. I hope that that does not happen, but they should be keeping you posted if you are in play for one of their candidates or for one of their clients. They should be keeping you posted if if your skill set fits for one of the jobs that they have that are open. But sometimes that does not happen. As I mentioned before, when we have recessions or when we have hot candidate markets, it's kind of both. There's sometimes an increase in bad behavior on the candidate side. We have candidates that sign up for interviews and then don't show up. We have candidates that sign up for interviews with our clients and don't show up. We have candidates that accept job offers and then 10 minutes before it's 9 a.m. on Monday when they're supposed to start, call us to say that they've now accepted a counter offer for their current position and they're staying. So unfortunately, all of this happens. We try to do our very best to be sure that we are treating our candidates and our clients in a respectful way and not exhibiting bad behavior. It's a part of our firm's mission, vision, and values that we don't behave that way. So I would say it's very rare, but it is going to happen from time to time, and it's unfortunate. And it definitely happens with other places. So with all that said, hopefully you're not having to deal with that very often, but there are a lot of benefits to working with a search firm. You get access to more jobs. We have clients who will not post their positions out on LinkedIn or on their company website and only work with us. They only want to see candidates that we send them because they trust us. They've known us for years, long-term relationships, and they know that we are going to do our very best to send them qualified, matching candidates, right? So you might get access to more jobs than you would just working out on your own. Being represented by an experienced professional helps. We do this all day long, right? Hopefully most of you are only in a job search now or only every, 5, 6, 10, 8 years. This is not something you do often. It is not something you want to do full time. You want to find that job, but this is something that we do all day long. We brief and prep and coach our candidates. We look at their resumes. We provide guidance if we see something that we don't think is going to fit. We look at their LinkedIn profiles to see if there's something that we might recommend to improve upon. We prep you for the interviews. We give you helpful reminders. It's silly, but things like, test your lighting on your Zoom and make sure that you can see yourself. And if you're going to be on a Zoom interview, what are the tips and tricks there to help you get ready as opposed to a live interview? We help you with all of that. We serve as a buffer. So sometimes the client has some feedback and we will provide that back to you. Sometimes the client wants to ask a certain question, but we already know the answer to that. So we can provide that information to them so that you don't have to. We help you secure that interview. We are your advocate. We are going to the client and saying, I think this candidate is going to be great. And here's why I think they're compelling to you and your company. We use that word a lot, don't we, Tracy? Compelling. But we really become the advocate for the candidate to be sure that it's a good fit for them. We're also advocating for you to the client to be sure that we think it's a good fit for you to be there. And if our client is exhibiting poor behavior or it's a bad environment or something's going on, we're very upfront and tell you guys, hey, this is a crazy environment, just so you know what you're getting yourself into if you're considering. We also help with potential contract opportunities. So perhaps while you're in your job search for a permanent role, you might be open to some part-time temporary work that may or may not be in your perfect industry, may or may not be in your perfect part of town that you'd really like to be in. But sometimes people are open to working short-term projects. And it's a nice way to get some cash in the door. So we have a lot of clients that work with us to find those opportunities as well. And so sometimes we're able to present you for those while you're still continuing your permanent job search. And then lastly, we assist with salary and package negotiations. So if you're lucky enough to get to that final stage, you've got an offer. We know what you made at your last job. We know what your target salary is. We know what your target bonus is. We also know what the client is saying they want to pay, but we become the liaison between there so we can really help get you the best package possible, knowing what the client is open to and knowing what's commensurate with your skill set and your experience. So we help with that kind of stuff so that you guys don't have to become experts in it, because hopefully this is not something you're doing very often. How many firms should you work with? At least a couple. You want to find a firm that is, specific to your industry, perhaps, or specific to your geography, perhaps, or specific to your types of roles in your function. As I mentioned, our firm really specializes in accounting, finance, HR, and IT. So if you want to connect and you're looking for a sales role, that's probably not something that Tracy and I can help you with. And it doesn't make sense to necessarily, work with us. We are going to focus our time on talking to candidates that are in those spaces, because that's who we're going to be able to place with our clients. But you want to find as many, recruiters that you feel like fit with you. Maybe pick a big national brand name, pick a local boutique recruiter, and pick a firm that is either in your industry or in your kind of siloed function, because you want to be able to meet a couple of them. You want to try to meet them face to face. Now, sometimes that means live, and certainly at our firm, we welcome anyone to come and interview with us at our office, but Zoom is also a really good option to start that relationship. Tracy and I go and meet candidates for coffee. But you want to try to get to know them and have them get to know you, because the best way that they can be an advocate for you is if they really get to know you. Okay, so when you're dealing with recruiters, what are some of the do's? The do's: choose the right firm. Like we said, you want to find the right reputation, what fits with your background. If you know somebody who's in a job search in your same space, ask them, who are you talking to? Who are you working with? Who should I know that I don't know yet? Who should I be getting to know? Try to get that face-to-face meeting if possible, at least on Zoom. A lot of recruiters like to start with a phone call. That's fine. At our firm, we might start with a phone call, but pretty quickly we like to jump into a Zoom. So try to get that face-to-face if possible. It's going to be much easier for the recruiter to represent you if they know you. You want to treat the recruiter with respect. I know that sounds silly, but we don't always get a lot of respect. So it's got to work both ways, right? The recruiter needs to treat you with respect. You need to treat the recruiter with respect. Respect their time. They're very busy. They want to meet you. They want to help you. That's ultimately how they're going to get paid. But they're also busy, and they've got a lot of candidates and a lot of jobs all going on at the same time. If you get an interview with a recruiter, treat it like a normal interview. Dress up, or at least, show up in something other than a ball cap. Show that you will dress up, if we present you to one of our clients. Treat it like a normal interview in that, you want to have your answers ready to go. You want to be in a professional environment. You want to, again, test your Zoom, test your lighting, make sure that people can see you. Tell the truth with recruiters. This one seems tricky to some people, right? We have candidates who were laid off, and that's why they're looking for a new job. We have candidates who were fired, and that's why they're looking for a new job. We have candidates who are miserable in their current job, and that's why they're looking for a new job. If you tell us the truth, we can help guide you and provide counsel on how best to package that and communicate that to the client. Okay, so you have to tell us the truth. Tell us the truth on what your salary expectations are and what you're going to be open to when it comes to a commute and things like that. You've got to be honest with us, because that's the best way for us to be able to place you in what's hopefully going to be the right long-term fit for you. And then stay in touch with your recruiters, right? It does not have to be, in fact, please don't let it be every 48 hours pinging us. Do you have anything new? Do you have anything new? Do you have anything new? But establish a long-term relationship. These recruiters are likely going to stay in the industry. They can help you, whether it's this job search or the next job search, or they can help your colleagues that, family members and friends that are going through it. Stay in touch, get to know them, build a relationship. I promise you, these are great people, and they're really, really looking out to help you. These are questions to ask as you consider which recruiters you want to deal with or how best to deal with them. Have you done business with this client before? Tracy has, for example, clients where she has placed over a dozen people there over the last 4 or 5 years, right? She knows that client very, very, very well. She knows that her candidates are happy there. She can really share and kind of pull the curtain back on that particular client. But there's also clients that are new to us, and we'll be honest with you and tell you whether we've worked with that client before. But ask that, because you can find out how many placements have we made with this client before? How often should I touch base with you? This is a great one, because some recruiters like to be in touch a little more. Some will say, hey, let's touch base every 2 weeks. And that's okay, right? You got to find your right cadence. How would you like to receive communications? Some recruiters prefer text messaging, some prefer emails, some would rather you pick up the phone and call when you've got new information to share. So ask them. If I don't hear back from you, can I assume the client is not interested? This one's tricky. Sometimes we have clients that are not as responsive. Sometimes we have clients that are very responsive. I would not assume that the client isn't interested. And our recruiters should reach back out and provide any feedback that they do get. But we do have clients that kind of shut down or find somebody on their own, and we're the last ones to know about it. So, we're doing our best to get that information to you, but I wouldn't necessarily make the assumption. But we'll keep you posted on information we find out. And then ask the recruiter how you can help them. They're very much interested in helping you. So it's always nice to ask them, how can you help them? Sometimes if you have other colleagues or friends that are also in a job search, maybe they're a better fit for a particular job than you are, or for a different role. So they're not competing exactly against you. And the recruiters can reach out to them. If, for example, you have referrals of, friends and colleagues that are at companies that can buy business from the recruiter, you can always give them those types of referrals as well. It's not expected at any point. But again, everything we're doing for free, and we want to be able to help you guys. The don'ts. This one's really hard because I am an Enneagram 9 and I am a helper and I am empathetic as far as my top strength on Strength Finders. And I love to try to help people, but don't expect too much. It is not our job to find you a job and get you a job. It is our job to advocate for you, for our clients who are hiring, and do our very best. But it's not our job to get you a job. And I hope that that comes across well. We want to help you. We want to do everything, but you've got to put a lot of effort and work into it as well. It's got to be a partnership. Another don't is don't tell other recruiters about a job that you're working with one recruiter on. So for example, we have clients who use and utilize our services exclusively. We also have clients that are working with 2 or 3 different firms at any given time to place the same position. So if you hear from us, for example, there's a controller role open at Wingstop, and then you're working with another recruiter and you say, oh, well, I'm interviewing with Wingstop through Thomas Edwards Group for a controller role. That would give that recruiter the potential to go call Wingstop and say, oh, I heard you guys are utilizing a different firm. Why don't you utilize us as well? So you just, try to avoid telling recruiters about what else you're doing. It's perfectly fine when recruiters ask you for, are you considering other opportunities? It's perfectly fine to say, yes, I'm considering other opportunities, because you want that recruiter to know that you're interviewing with multiple things so that they can help you navigate when those, you potentially get to a place with multiple offers. I would strongly encourage you to not let recruiters just send your resume out at will. The best case scenario is that they are sending your resume to clients for jobs that are open and that fit well with your skill set. It's like the shotgun approach. Sending your resume out just to see if anybody gets any bites is a negative behavior of some recruiting firms. So I'd be very clear when you're talking to recruiters about, that you do not want your resume to be just shopped around unless it's something that you're interested in pursuing with a client. Try not to go around the recruiter. If the recruiter tells you about a position and then you decide you're just going to go straight to the HR at the company, it gets really tricky as far as who's earned fees and who hasn't. And it's a lot clearer to go through the recruiter. This is what we do all day long. We are here to help you. And then try not to bring the negativity. We understand. We are very empathetic. We are very understanding that things get busy. We understand if you have to reschedule. We understand that you might be having a bad day. Job search is hard, right? So we will try to bring the positivity. So try to meet us and bring the positivity, and we're going to, work with you and kind of be all in it together. Let's see. Okay. So what's our recap? Hopefully you've got a little better understanding of sort of what motivates recruiters that work at agencies. Setting expectations, you want to be prepared, treat any interview with a recruiter just like a normal interview. And then what does the recruiter want? They want to represent you well to their client. They want to find candidates for their client that fit the job description and that have the right skill set. And we want to try to stay positive. We want to really try to work hard for everybody. So that's the presentation. So what questions do you guys have, or what can I share? I will answer one question proactively. Somebody mentioned it, I think on maybe Foster Zoom or one of the other meetings, proactively. And it was, why do recruiters reach out to me and act like they didn't know that I already applied to the job, if I've already applied to the job? So without fully understanding the situation, there's a couple things that could be happening there. So one situation is you might have applied to the company's website, and then you get a call from a recruiter at an agency who is working that job, and they might not know that you have already applied to that job on the company website. Once they describe to you the job and they tell you about the client, it is very important that you raise your hand and say, hey, I've already applied to that company. I applied on their website. I applied directly on LinkedIn. I applied with HR. Because if you had done that previously, our recruiters would then not be able to submit your resume. And so you would have to work directly through the HR or just through the process. It could also be that, for example, you applied to a Thomas Edwards Group position on LinkedIn, and one recruiter found out about it, but another recruiter has the recruiter desk that week and is reaching out to you because they think your skill set's going to be perfect. And they may not have looked in the database to see if something, if you've already been talked to or touched by our firm or things like that. So there's a couple of different reasons why that could happen. But usually it's best to just at least start the conversation, figure out whether or not you've applied before, figure out whether or not it's the right fit for you. And then our teams can work internally to figure, the other stuff out and make sure that you're represented the most effectively. So that was a question that came from, it might've been Sonia's meeting on Monday, Jeff. So.
Okay. So Sarah, you said you worked internally as an internal recruiter for a company.
Did.
What are the big differences between what you did and what you're doing now?
So the big differences I would say are, number one, money motivation. Okay. So corporate recruiters are typically paid salaried, and and they make decent money. But corporate recruiters typically do not get extra bonuses for any placements or anything, right? They're salaried. They are a full-time employee of that company. And so they are tasked with meeting with their clients, but their clients are their internal hiring managers. So different groups, different divisions, different leaders, and they meet with them, and they'll go through a little bit of the same process, right? What are you looking for? What's the job description? How can I help you? But corporate recruiters are motivated by, finding the right candidate and getting them hired, but they're not money motivated to go above and beyond because they're not getting paid extra to make placements. Also, corporate recruiters quite often are dealing with EEOC policies. They're dealing with potentially diversity and inclusion goals that a certain company might have. So they may be looking for a specific slate of candidates to present internally for certain roles. There's just a lot of different ways that, they're finding candidates. They have to also compete with internal candidates. So if you think about it, if you're a recruiter working for example, KPMG, and you go find external candidates to apply for your job, you're also going to be competing against internal candidates who are also applying for that job and are ready for promotion, or for, they want to switch departments or something like that. So there's a lot of inner workings with corporate recruiters. Sometimes they are, it depends on the company, but sometimes they are inundated with candidates, because if you're the corporate recruiter for 7-Eleven, everybody wants to work at 7-Eleven, right? So they're doing a lot of digging in their applicant tracking system, or their applicant tracking system is doing digging and just weeding out candidates because they don't have the time to look at all 300 candidates for that one role. And so it's just a very different space, I would say. And sometimes getting their attention is quite difficult unless you're the purple unicorn candidate who's looking for the purple unicorn role that they're trying to find. And sometimes they'll accept your LinkedIn requests and sometimes they won't. And, a lot of them are just inundated and inundated and inundated. And they're looking for the easiest, quickest way to kind of cull that applicant pool down, so that they can, only talk to the best candidates. All
right. Let's see here. Gabrielle, you put on there that you have a question. Please go ahead and unmute your mic and let us know what you got to say, what your question is.
Sarah, I would love to help and create relationships with recruiters, because I believe in the go-giver principles and hope. And so, but I'm not a finance, I'm not a CPA, but I would love to help you because I'm a big networker. I'm an extreme extrovert. I'm going to be organizing things with my alumni and adjacent alumni groups. Okay. How can I build relationships with recruiters? Because I know even though you work with CPAs, for example, you may know recruiters who, recruit for other industries, but how do I start building relationships with those kinds of recruiters?
I would say specific for me, feel free to email me. I think I'm probably the only one that hasn't yet put my email in the chat. So I will do that, but email me and, we can set up a quick call, a quick Zoom, and just see how best I can help you and get you maybe connected to a couple of other firms. I'll be honest, once you kind of get in your lane, it's hard to know everybody in all the other lanes. So I do have a couple of good firms that are kind of sister firms to ours. But there's a lot of others out there that I just don't know. But, I'd reach out on LinkedIn. I would try to connect with some recruiters. And then again, I would ask people in these networking events and guys like Jeff and others that you are connected with, who else do you know that I should know? And see if you can get some introductions that way. Because hopefully going to get you some names that are, different than necessarily what Tracy and I can do.
Wonderful. I have a follow-up question regarding communication.
Okay.
When you've had an interview, what is a way to reach out to find out, to get some feedback from them as to what they happened? Did they go with an incumbent? I know that's, I know there's no magic like words or anything, but I was wondering if you can maybe share some tips about that.
Yeah, that is one of the unfortunate behaviors that comes out in some recruiters, right? They get busy, or they don't have any information, or they don't want to share bad results, right? And so they clam up and they just don't say anything, and they ghost you and they just disappear, right? I would say for the positive is good recruiters will figure out a way to give you that information and give it to you in a timely basis, right? They're going to say, this client has decided to go with an internal candidate. This client has decided to go with their top candidate, and you are no longer in consideration. Sometimes our clients will even say, here's why that candidate isn't a good fit here, even after a couple of interviews. And, Tracy and I have to communicate that to candidates, because we want to make sure that if it's good feedback, that we provide it to you, right? This candidate felt like you were not strong enough in this area compared to their other candidates, or this candidate thought you showed up and it was an unprofessional dress, or you were late to the interview, or we'll provide that information if we ever get it. But you're right. There's some recruiters who just don't know how to do that, or they don't like giving bad news. So they'll do the late night email at 2:00 in the morning. Oh, so sorry, I missed you, but this candidate is, this client has decided this. The worst trick in the book. I hate it. So, you try to reach out and you try to ask the recruiter for feedback and or just closure, right? Could you please provide an update on where I am in the process? And most recruiters should be able to provide that information. It's either going to be you're still in consideration or you're not. Now, the part where that gets really tricky is if you haven't even had anyone look at your resume yet, they may not reply to those emails, because again, your resume or your candidacy might be within 5,000. And they're like, I don't even have time to reply to the email to tell you why I am or am not even going to look at your resume. So I don't expect that all recruiters will reply to those types of emails. But if you've been through an interview, I think it's very fair, and follow up on a weekly basis maybe, and just say, could you please provide an update on where I am in the process? Kill them with kindness and then hope for the best.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question? I've got a couple, but I'm going to wait and let anybody else ask them first. Anyone? All right, so here's my first question. I've got your website up here, and I'm going to pop it up in just a second, the Thomas Edward Group website. At the very bottom of it, it lists current jobs.
Yes.
How up to date is that?
I would say for Thomas Edwards Group, it's probably 90% real. And here's what I mean by that. Every job that is on there has been open and is active. What is hard to update, and Tracy can back me up on this, what's hard to keep 100% updated is if, for example, we are working on a job, we have sent resumes over to the client has done a couple of interviews, they say they're still accepting candidates, and then a week or two go by, and then we find out that they have made an offer to another candidate. We don't know that. So as soon as we know that, we take the job down. As soon as we know, for example, that the client has said, we've seen enough resumes, we don't want to see any more resumes, right? Then we'll put it on hold within our system until a candidate is hired, for example. But there are situations where, there's a little nuance in there, and, we don't know what's going on with the client. And so we will keep it open on our system as long as we believe it is open. So I don't know, I'd say 90%. Tracy, what would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, sorry, my dogs are deciding to lose their minds. Something else, I think I get asked a lot is, are these real jobs?
Yeah.
And I have understood that other firms may post fake jobs to get those unicorn candidates to apply. However, we do not do that. All of the positions are real, active in some type of regard, but they are real jobs.
And with actively engaged clients with fee agreements in place, we do not post anything or look at candidates until we know we have been engaged by that client for that specific job description with a fee agreement in place.
Great. And I wanted everybody to meet Tracy. You'll see her name. She's on our roster. She pops in once a month or so to keep active on our roster. So, you know, if you're ever looking for a contact with Thomas Edwards, just check out our roster, look for Tracy Harris, or just type in Thomas Edward and her email will pop up and you'll see her, the details. If you do, Control F to try her on find. So Tracy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So love this for me. Of course, they were quiet the whole time until now. So I have been with Thomas Edwards Group for a little over 4 years. Before I was in recruiting, I worked for Target, not in corporate, in various capacities in the DFW market. So I opened the store in Preston Center. I remodeled the one in Frisco. I ran operations in Plano and various other capacities. But I've been a full desk recruiter at Thomas Edwards Group for a little over 4 years now. And I think one of the most rewarding experiences was early on in my career, I got to place my brother in one of his positions that he's held. So.
Okay. And I know, you know, I remember meeting Tracy pre-COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID.
The meeting. So, you know, so she was new at the time, but now she got 3 years of COVID under her belt. So, you know,
that's right.
Experienced now. All right, let's see here. I got a couple questions that have popped up here. Is Thomas, so Lenora asked, I know Lenora's in the New York area. Is Thomas Edwards a nationwide, including New York, or do they deal with financial service roles?
So short answer, yes, we deal with a lot of financial services roles. Most of them are not remote. And no, we are not national. We are regional now, I would say. We have been in business in DFW for 26 years, which is pretty exciting. But we just opened up our 3rd location down in Austin back on January 1st. So if you guys have friends, colleagues, candidates, clients who need people to hire down in the Austin, Central Texas area, we're happy to talk with them now as well. But we are not national. And, you know, from time to time, we'll get some 100% remote roles, but they are rare. It's probably the best way to say it, especially in DFW. And whatever you're seeing on LinkedIn, forget it. DFW clients want to see people in their seats. Now, they're a lot more flexible than they were, you know, pre-pandemic. And there's a lot of hybrid roles now with more flexibility, but we have very, very, very few 100% remote roles.
Okay.
That we work.
All right. Another question here is, are the rejection reasons given by internal recruiters directly to candidates truthful or just an excuse to avoid stating age or some other kind of issue?
I mean, it depends on the recruiter. I got to be honest. I hope that they're telling mostly the truth. When I worked at KPMG, we actually had an HR policy that stated we were not allowed to give reasons. We only could say, we are not considering you any further at this time. And we were not allowed to give feedback and we were not allowed to give reasons. So there's a lot of different policies. There's a lot of different recruiters. I would say the more experienced recruiters are really good at providing as much information as they possibly can. Now, there should not be age discrimination regardless. So if we had a client who was interested in cutting someone for just simply that reason, there's a decent chance we would not work with that client again, right? Because we've got to be picky and put people in good places. But there's a lot of recruiters and a lot of firms and a lot of internal recruiters who don't necessarily operate with the same mission and vision and values. So it depends.
Right.
It's not ever going to be 100% accurate, but hopefully they're doing their best.
Right. Kathy, I see you've got a question. You've got your hand up. You want to unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yes. So my question is, would we get any extra traction if we went to a company office and dropped off a resume and tried to meet HR or something like that? This is an old school approach. It worked great back in the 80s when I was laid off. But, you know, in recent time, people have started going back into the office again. And I'm just wondering if you'd get any traction from that.
No, that's a good question. I would say it's probably hit or miss because chances, and Sally, I'd love your thoughts on this, but I would say it's almost the opposite now where people might be a little worried if you drop off something. It's just a different environment. You know, we no longer have people just show up with a, you know, box of tips, treats and a resume. I think people might actually think that it does the opposite effect of what you're trying to do. It might come a little desperate or creepy. So I don't think I would advise that.
Yeah, desperate's my middle name now.
I've had this happen to me as an HR director and manager, and I'm usually in the middle of something. So I can't, what it does is tells me that the candidate has no comprehension of the volume of work I'm faced with at that time, and that I can just drop everything and go greet them. And that just that's not reality. But, you know, if they want to, I have had I've had recruiters or vendors and candidates drop off a note. And then when I get to a time where I can look at those things, then I will. And then I can determine who I want to reach out to with, because I only have a limited amount of time, right? We only have 24 hours a day. So you just have to think of it from that perspective.
Yeah, I think what I did previously was I just was dropping it off with a receptionist, and her phones were going crazy. And she said, "But wait a minute, are you trying to interview for?" And it was this new business that they had brought on. And I said, "Yes, but you know, if you can just get me scheduled up in the future for an interview, that'd be great." No, stay here. I'm going to get you in today. So it worked out great. I ended up getting hired the following day. So
wow.
Well, again, it was the 80s though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you know, it depends on the size of the organization and how long they've been recruiting and just a lot of different factors. But I would say generally 50% or more would be don't go that route. That's just my personal opinion.
I would recommend shape that energy into trying to find an internal connection so that you can network in and have them take your resume over to HR. So it's all about who do you know that works there, or who do you know that knows somebody who works there? And that's what all this networking stuff is, because that is actually can be very helpful.
Jeff Crilly, for those of you who remember Jeff Crilly from Channel 4, he used to be a news reporter. He tells a story about the time that he put a resume for his girlfriend on top of a cheese pizza box and delivered it to the front desk and said, "I know this is cheesy, but please take a look." And, you know, she did get the phone call and she eventually moved here, and Jeff and her got married a couple years later. But it's an old story that I just think sort of humorous. Let's see, there are a couple of questions here. Let's see, went through company. Any negotiation tips, regardless of the amount of time, you know, in person versus remote? Just what are you all saying?
I guess I would say earn it is probably the best way to say that. So if they are offering 3 days in the office, 2 days work from home, and you have got your heart set on 3 days work from home or 4 days, whatever it is, it might be possible down the road, but you might have to earn it. And there's other places that are going to be 4 days in the office and 1 day remote. Unless you are the perfect candidate, they don't want to negotiate on that. Most of them are doing way more flexibility than they did pre-pandemic. They already feel like they have given a lot. They already feel like they're bending over backwards to give people, 2 days remote. You might lose the opportunity if you go into that and say, well, I'm only going to consider it if I get 4 days remote. Then, you know, their thought is, why are you special versus the entire rest of the population of everybody who works here? So I would say, you know, if you are the best candidate and you get to offer stage and you're thinking about, you know, 2 days versus 3 days, that might be something that you can think about negotiating. But I would wait until you've got an offer in hand, and I would not let that lead the conversation, because they're probably already doing quite a bit and feel like they're already doing quite a bit. And a lot of places are not interested in changing their policies, especially just for one candidate. So that's my
agree. I think too, this is like one of the few things that is pretty non-negotiable as I'm working directly with candidates and I'm working with those clients. It's like the one thing that they really don't want to budge on. And a lot of times it's due to their culture. They feel that they want to value their culture and they want people there in person. So, you know, you could present yourself that way. However, like Sarah said, I think that may kind of nix you from getting that opportunity. And as a candidate, it's your job to sell yourself all the way through and obtain that offer, and then decide, you know, what you want to do from that point. But
okay, so
you know, a lot of places are, or sorry, Jeff, I was just gonna say, a lot of places are doing, you know, more time in the office for onboarding, for training, for the first 6 months, you know, whatever that is. So if understand that if you need something potentially down the road, you might be able to get it later. But you know, I don't always count on it.
Right. So a lot of us are, you know, having to take time off to caregive for a loved one, you know, for a parent, and maybe we haven't worked for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. What do you recommend as far as how do we jump back in?
So this is actually a relatively common occurrence now. So I would say pre-pandemic, it was a little trickier, right? Some employers and some, you know, clients would look at resume gaps or something and really have some strong opinions on it. I would say for my clients, there's been a much more understanding approach. There is a much more, as far as willingness to talk to candidates who have either an employment gap or something in there. It's a very common story these days. And so even the highest level candidates, some of them have taken 2 years off to just retool and reset and think about it. So what you want to think about is, yes, you can absolutely work with recruiters. You just want to be prepared with your story. What have you been doing? What have you been doing to keep yourself busy? Is there anything that you've been doing within maybe your industry to stay current? Is there any of those kinds of things you just want to be able to highlight? Have you been volunteering? Have you been, you know, be ready to kind of highlight those things. But absolutely anybody who's ready to jump back into the market should feel comfortable doing that and reaching out to recruiters. It's a much more common story than it was.
Yeah. And I think part of that question was, should I even bother to approach with recruiters? I would say in that regard, absolutely. Because when you're just submitting your resume, you're just submitting your resume. If you work with a recruiter, a lot of times we're submitting a little piece of your story, right? So we're saying like, hey, this is Sarah Jacobs. She's a great candidate. Here's her skill set. You know, for the past couple of years, she's been focused on, you know, assisting her family. And now she's, you know, ready for that next opportunity. Because then we get to tell a piece of that versus you just submitting your resume and people making assumptions. So I think that's always helpful to work with a recruiter.
All right. Anybody else have any? First, Sarah, is it okay to share this presentation with everybody on the call today?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you have not put your contact information in the chat window, please do so. I will be sure to get that out to everybody this afternoon. I'll send a copy of it out to everybody else. Let me quickly here just sort of show, here's the Thomas Edwards website. So if you're interested, right up here at the very top, there's job openings. Right here along the front, you can click right over here, current job openings, you can see it there. You scroll down even more, oops, right here, current job opens. So obviously they're trying to promote their current job openings. So, and then here are the locations where they're located at. So I just wanted to show that to everybody, and I'll include this website in my email that goes out to everybody this afternoon. Any other questions anybody have? Questions, comments? One of the things that I know when I've dealt with, my last job came through a recruiting firm, but one of the things I learned that, you all are very busy, that yes, I sort of stayed in touch with my recruiter every couple of weeks because that's what he said. But one of the things I did was I constantly checked the website to see what jobs they had posted. And I would go, ooh, that's me. And I'd call the guy up immediately and go, that's me, I can do that. And he'd go, yeah, you can. Okay, thanks for, it's like you were the extra pair of eyes helping the recruiter out. So that's one of the things that, if you do get connected with Thomas Edwards and you're looking at their jobs that are opening, if you see something that you go, that's me exactly, reach out to Tracy, reach out to Sarah, and they will, they'll hook you up. Oh, one other question I'd like to ask is LinkedIn Recruiter Package. Do you all use it?
We do. So I'll let Tracy share more, but I don't have a LinkedIn recruiter desk because I do a lot of business development and I don't need that. We do not have a full desk for every single one of our recruiters because we look in a lot of different places, but we do have seats and they rotate and people use them all the time. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on something earlier, Jeff, so that open to work. But something else I share with candidates too, one of our partners was presenting for CFOs who are in a job search. And one of those things is not a button that you can click, not something you can edit. It's how active are you on LinkedIn, right? So something, if I'm going through and I'm looking for, I'm going to make this up, project managers, right? That's not typically in our warehouse, but project managers in the DFW area, I don't know, probably 5,000 people. So how can I narrow that down? I want people who are one, open to work or more likely to respond. What is more likely to respond mean? That means that you are active on LinkedIn, you're connecting with people, you're maybe posting, you're interacting with posts, you're interacting with others. And like I said, that's no button you can click. You have to be interactive on LinkedIn. I think for a lot of people, it's very uncomfortable, but I think COVID really pushed us in this direction and you've got to get on board. This is the way a lot of people are found. And then we send messages out to these individuals, but we can sort by a lot of filters and that type of thing. And of course I could go on like a huge tangent on what you should do for LinkedIn, have a professional picture, all that good stuff. But LinkedIn is definitely something that we utilize a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Sarah, thank you very much. Tracy, thank you for joining us today.
Jeff?
Let me share a few more slides. Let me get rid of a few things here. Hold on a second. Let me boot. Hold on.
Jeff's like the expert at unpinning and pinning and getting the right people. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm sort of there. Okay. Let me share a few. So thank you all very much for being with us. Just a reminder, next week, open forum. We'll talk about whatever questions you have about your job search. Join us. It's always a great presentation because the conversation goes wherever you want to take it. We will be meeting in person. For the 2 people who showed up in person today, thank you for being there. Sorry, I mean, I would have come if they would have said the building was open, but they told me the building was closed. So next Friday, open forum. You've got questions about your job search, ask us, and everybody can offer their opinions, and we will be meeting in person. Let's see here, get the right slides going. If you've not put your 30-second introductions in the chat window, please do so we know who you are. We'll get you this copy of this presentation that Sarah provided to us today. So put your information in the chat window. That way we can update the roster and get everything going for us. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. So we've talked about LinkedIn. Next Tuesday, Kurt Vondermatter will be with us. He's a retained search consultant. So he's the 3rd consultant Sarah talked about at the very beginning. He gets paid an upfront fee. He goes and finds, he's contracted with the company just to hire this one position only. And then he gets paid the balance when he actually fulfills and finds that person. So he'll be talking about LinkedIn from a recruiter's eye, and he will actually show us the back door of the LinkedIn recruiting package. He'll show us what he does to try to find you. So it's always a very interesting presentation. Come join us next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, we talk about LinkedIn. Next Wednesday, the practice interview team will be meeting in person at Christ United Methodist Church, corner of Parker and Coit. So there'll be no online session next Wednesday, but the next online session will be on May 10th. We are meeting right Christ United Methodist Church, southwest corner of Parker and Coit and Plano. Come join us. I know we've got one interview scheduled. We probably can handle a second interview if anybody would like to give an in-person interview. And just come watch other people being interviewed. Number one, you're going to build connections with other people who are there. You get to see other people being interviewed. You will learn things just by watching other people. Next Wednesday, being the first Thursday of the month, we're going to talk all about effective resumes. So we'll talk about the resume primarily for an ATS system. So come join us next Thursday at 1 o'clock. This session has been recorded. You will be able to go back and watch it on the Career DFW Facebook page or the Career USA YouTube channel. Yesterday, I posted our 500th video. So today's video will be 501. Go to Career USA on the YouTube channel. Subscribe. If you subscribe, every time I post a new video, you'll find out all about it. Click on playlist, because if you don't, you have 500 videos in some random order. But when you click on playlist, every video that I upload goes into one of 7 different playlists. And then down, don't click on the video, but down below where it says view full playlist in the red circle, click there and up will come a list of all the different events, and you can go back and find whatever topic it is you'd like to see. For the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group speakers, you're probably going to want to go in about 25 to 30 minutes to start to get to the beginning of where that speaker is. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Have a great weekend. Hopefully the storms in DFW area don't affect anybody who's with us, but for everybody else, have a good weekend, and we will see you all next week. Sarah, everybody else, thank you all very much for joining us.
Yep. Bye, guys.